Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today. This is the start of the Justice League Dark DLC today that dropped. This is the first of two videos. Basically, I'm going to be doing back-to-back videos with this is Fellowship the Arcane Elite and then Shatter Gotham Elite, doing basically a walkthrough guide of the Elite Raid, basically our setups, what we did, mechanics you have to watch out for, stuff like that. So I'm picking this up at the first boss and not the museum part or the House of Mysteries, because that one I may do a separate guide mechanics wise on that, but really the mechanics are pretty straightforward. If there's people struggling on certain rooms, and they are really straightforward and laid out too, like it's hard to kind of fail. There's different combinations. Some of the rooms are really fun, but that's essentially that. So if you are struggling with that, maybe I can do a separate video on that, but I just want to cover the actual boss fights here. So basically, right off the bat, you'll be seeing I'm going to be doing the side rooms. Basically, I'll touch on what's different here as what roles are out there and why I have our group makeup is the way it is. But essentially, you're going to need 2 tanks in this fight. You don't necessarily need 2 tanks for the ads, although it is very handy because of all these fields that Fate puts out. They could be overlapping each other. They could be side by side. It becomes a little bit troublesome for the tank to pull the ads and aggro Fate around between all the pools, because you get stuck and get caught in them. Just at the CR type level, they are quite damage heavy. So basically, what you have to do is you have to go into these side rooms. Each time you'll see basically the text pop up. You'll see this basically yellow X saying this is the scroll. You have to go get it. You have to zip into it. Now in Elite, it's going to be different from regular from the fact where there's more eyes, they move faster, as well as their ads. This was a big change from test. There wasn't ads on test. So basically this makes it so that you pretty much need the second tank to go in, because if you have to wait or wait out with an ad attacking you, you could probably kill it as a DPS, but at the same time, if you die in here in the library, you're out. No one's getting a res. Well, I guess technically you could run the lasers, pit water, or whatever, but realistically, you're going to die. No one's going to be able to pick you up. So you want to be careful on that aspect. That's why it should probably be the backup tank that does this. This will be the best setup for that, so you can kind of ignore the ads. You've got a shield, because the other thing is, well, say you're DPS doing this. If you go to put the scroll in Zatanna and there's a field on you like there was right there, you're going to be taking like 60 or 70k damage like that. Or there could be a field on the teleporter. Like, there's going to be so many opportunities for you to die in these library rooms or putting the scroll into Zatanna. So it's pretty much fixed that you need the backup tank to run these libraries. You could get away with doing it as a DPS, but it's just way more risky, because I found, and certainly you'll see it in this clip, there's tons of opportunities where Zatanna, or there was fields, the Fate's fields were on the portals, so then you're taking massive damage while you're waiting to get in the teleporter. You're taking massive damage when you're getting out of the teleporter, and it just becomes a mess. So basically, once you finish the rooms, put the scrolls in, basically as you just saw, Fate is vulnerable. So we'll kind of touch on the fight here. This is going to be this is probably the hardest fight in this DLC in terms of Elite. There's so much stuff going on. So basically, we'll kind of lay it out here mechanics wise. So one, you've got Fate. Fate is going to teleport and jump around, and basically has a chance to kill you. It doesn't always kill you in his teleport, but you have to block it. The issue is that he also leaves his Ankh behind, which is basically going to drop a yellow kind of energy ball on top of it, called the Ankh Bomb. Now this one, if you take that and the field damage, or take 2 Ankh Bombs at the same time, you're dead. That's going to kill you. So basically, even though he teleports, you have to block and then roll out of the way, because if he blocks you and puts that Ankh sigil on you and the Ankh Bomb falls on you, then you're going to die, which is sitting there. So you have to make sure you roll to that. You can kind of see on the far side, because I'm tanking it, you can't really see the whole fight here. But you can definitely see when he teleports, he puts his normal sigil there, and then basically you're going to see a yellow ball from the sky, and that's what you'll watch out for. In the combat log, it's called Ankh Bomb, or however you pronounce Ankh, but it sounds like Ankh Bomb. The other major mechanic is his fields that he puts out. Those are going to be about 30k dots. There's also augments that are tied to them, so they're no joke. You can't stand in those and keep DPSing. Multiple ones can overlap. They can spawn beside each other. They can spawn all over the map. As you can see right there to my left, there's 3 basically overlapping. So basically, if you're you can't stand in these, you have to get out of the way. This is why we have 3 healers, because the group felt this is what they needed to survive, or at least our group. You don't need 3 healers necessarily. Once we're better geared or have more experience, you could be 2 healers, but the best way we found was to take a little bit longer, but have 3 heals for the security, because there's a whole bunch of one-shots in this fight, all over the place. So basically, you've got to roll out of the fields. You want to make sure you don't roll into a field from another field, because then you're still taking massive damage. It's no joke. The other issue as well is you can see all these pillars up that are arc lightning between you. That's the other major source of damage as well in this fight. The more you kind of bunch up, the more where your pillars are, the more time you bunch up around the pillars. Basically, the pillars will arc, and then they'll arc to you and arc to everyone around you, because it's basically arc lightning. So electricity is going to jump from you until the next closest person. So say you're all like 4 people around there. You get hit by a field, you get hit by the arc beams at the same time, boom, that's like, dead. It's like 80 and 100k damage all at once. If you take an Onk Bomb and then you're in the field, the Onk Bomb is like 60k, the field is like 30k. If you get hit by an arc, that's like 20, 30k. So there's a whole bunch of damage in this fight. This is a very, very damage intensive fight for the group. Like, say like Crown of Thorns Elite, what we're used to, or even Throne Elite, there's not much damage to the group. The group just stays in the same spot. DPSs doesn't move. The damage is on the tanks. These fights and these elite raids, they're 100% on the groups. So you're definitely going to have some deaths. You're definitely going to have some random one-shots, because another mechanic, it's not so much a mechanic, we reported on test, but it's going to happen. You're going to get killed by Fate's attack called Arcane Barrage. It's basically a sorcery-based attack where he fires his projectiles. Was it Soul Storm? Soul Barrage? I think it's called Soul Barrage. It's either Soul Barrage or Soul Storm. I can't remember the two, but similar animations. So he fires those balls. You can't see them. There's no way you're going to see them or react to them in time. You're just going to die at this point. That may be fixed, but basically, if you get random one-shot and it says Arcane Barrage in your combat log, it's more a luck thing. It's nothing really you can do. So basically, so you've got his fields, you've got the teleport onks, you've got the Onk Bomb tied into that, you've got his arcing pillars. Now, the other thing as well, you just saw, as you DPS Fate down, you have to, as I said before, I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but you'll learn really quickly, is that you can't DPS Fate or can't kill Fate until you run the books on the side, like the side room. So once that's done, then you can go ahead and DPS Fate. Once you get Fate down enough, it'll say an ally can be revived. The first only one you got to get is Shazam. Shazam is the most important ally to revive, because what he does is he destroys these pillars to give you more space to move around the map without getting hit by the arc lightning. He doesn't destroy a ton of them, but even one pillar destroyed, you'll see sometimes text will come up where it's like Shazam destroyed a pillar. That's the most important one you want to get. This, other than that, I'm not entirely sure what all the allies do. I know John Constantine summons up the Guardian, which is basically just going to kind of aggro and help the tank, really. It's not like a very important ally. Phantom Stranger, I'm not really sure what he does. We didn't revive Batwoman. I don't think we revived Zatanna at all. So I can't tell you yet what the allies do. Maybe somebody in the comments wants to put down what each one does. I can assure you that Shazam is the most important one, because he destroys the pillars, because that's where the damage comes from. Other than that, the allies are just going to be, icing on the cake. Test server, we always broke out John Constantine just to kind of alleviate some stress, because that was solo tanking then, and the Guardian kind of helps out with that. As you can see, Guardian's kind of walking around there. Shazam destroys the pillars. Not sure what Zatanna, Batwoman, or Phantom Stranger does. We had Phantom Stranger out, and I didn't really see any kind of noticeable difference at all. But like I said, this is more on the group, making sure they're positioning away from the pillars, making sure they're out of the fields, watching out for Fate's Arcane Barrage and just kind of that unluckiness, watching out for his teleports, attacks, and the Onk Bombs. It's just there's a whole bunch of one-shots you have to watch out for, and you don't necessarily need 2 tanks. You need 2 tanks, I think, for the library to be the safest, but once that's done, you could technically solo tank it and a rage, but that tank, we had an earth tank and a fire tank. So in that setup, you pretty much need 2 of them. A rage tank might be able to solo it, but like I said, it's just a little bit more stress on the tank, because then you're pulling the tanks around and get stuck in fields, etc. So at that point, it's up to the group. 3 healers might not be necessary as well, but we felt that it gave us the best way to survive. But we'll pick it up at the final boss here. Okay, so we got final boss here, the Fellowship of the Arcane, with Clarion, Felix Faust, and Mordru in the center. Now this fight, it's not hard by any means. It's a little bit chaotic because there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in a small room. So I'll kind of touch on everything I can here. Now I am in the second tank perspective, so a little bit hard to see some stuff, but I'll still talk about it and kind of show points where you kind of see it. So basically you need 2 tanks because, as you can see in the top left hand corner, Tickle the cat will come out. Now if Tickle and Clarion are not separated, then Tickle will basically perma pin down someone until they die, and you won't be able to stop that. Now the pinning is similar to, like, Shark Frenzy, which basically for King Shark and Crown of the Thorns, basically he would just target a player and kind of pin them down until they were dead. So you have to separate Tickle from Clarion so they don't do that. So basically one tank takes Tickle, Faust, and the adds. Tickle is a very quick kill. It's about like maybe a minute and a half to kill. You just need some single target focus damage because you'd have the add splitting. But Tickle is by no means like a tanky boss. His health goes by quite quickly. Once Tickle's dead, then it's just kind of focusing on Faust. And while the second tank holds Clarion until the end, you kill Clarion last. You could technically kill Clarion first, but it's just easier to kill Faust because they're already separated. Now, the other main thing going on in this fight is you have Mordru in the center. Basically, what happens is all these Croatoans, are they Croatoans? I think that's how they're pronounced. Croatoans? I could be wrong. I'll kind of wait to see one in a sec here. Spellbound Croatoan. Yeah, it looks like that's how it's pronounced. But you're going to see those basically Croatoan pilgrims come out. They're going to have cogs, and they're going to walk towards Mordru in the center. Now, if Mordru absorbs them, after a while he's going to basically do his Soul Inferno, which is basically a near one-shot attack on the group, the direction of the group. If he faces you, he's going to put like both his hands out. You're going to take massive damage. And then he's going to put this like purple lava on the ground that's going to give you healing debuff and damage over time if you stand in it. So basically he's going to eliminate. You can still stand in it. It's not too much of a dot, but still it's annoying because it's constantly ticking on you. And as a tank, it's going to be healing debuff. So it's basically, if you let those Croatoans get absorbed, not only are you risking a one-shot damage attack, but you're also having the chance to basically eliminate some of the field of already a small room. So you don't want to have like your entire room gone covered in purple lava, so you're taking extra damage. So you want the entire group has to turn the cogs on those Croatoans because they come out quite frequently. They come out very quickly. They come out from all 4 corners. So the issue is that the second tank or wherever the tank is on Clarion, unless it's an ice tank, there's no way you're turning those cogs because Clarion constantly attacks you, does flip slash, interrupts you, flurry, which is basically, as you can see, I tried to turn some of the cogs. I went through like transducer, dash attack, immolation. I still couldn't turn cogs correctly because Clarion just stays on you the entire time. So you're going to need like a healer with another shield. You're going to need the trollers is a big job in this fight to turn those cogs. The DPS have to as well. The DPS has other things to do as well, but the main part is that those cogs need to get turned. You cannot ignore them because you can't have the entire fight just basically get hit. So you can see there I had group transducer, still got interrupted. Popped immolation, still got interrupted and barely got the cog. So as you can see here, you can try to do as a second tank. I don't think you're going to have any success as Atomic or Rage or Earth doing this, or even Fire, as you just see. It's going to have to be an ice tank because you're going to need multiple shields to be able to stack and get through that. Or even with having a supercharged shield, it didn't save you. And even that, when the Soul Inferno does hit, I think you'll see it in my combat log once here. I dash attack up because it was called out, and I think it hit me for like 100k. So it's pretty much like a near one-shot attack while juggling Clarion the whole time. So you'll see basically, I'd say like 60% of the time I was tanking Clarion correctly. He is a very, very counter-heavy boss. That's why he's so easy for ice. He has a bunch of feints where basically he'll block and then not show the icon, which means if you try to block break him, he's going to lunge you. He does a lot of fake one-hand, like block breaker. So basically he'll do tap and then thinking that he's going to do flurry, but he's actually going to go into a block breaker. I fall for that a couple times because there's not really a tell for that. He just does it. So I block. I technically don't have to block the first 2 taps. I'm used to doing it because I'm used to 3 taps and not being a knockdown instead of 5 taps, but he'll do that. He'll do flurry. He'll do flip slash. He'll do these ranged attacks that you have to interrupt. So sometimes I give him a blue. It's not really that much damage. Clarion does no damage to anyone behind him. So as long as you face him away from the group, even on those range attacks with the wand that he does, it's not going to hit any player. So you don't have to really worry about that. Yeah, they hit you, but at the same time, I'm a fire tank, and it's not really dealing that much damage to me. So any other tank will be perfectly fine. Other than that, you try not to give Clarion a blue. I do it a few times, but it's not going to be the end of the world, not like Tala. Other than that, I try to be a bit ranged, because if you're a range tanking Clarion, he seems to do his range attack more often. So you can kind of lunge it and get some immunity, or and interrupt him. You can also, he does his like feint, block breaker feint on you, so you can just range tap and get him to lunge you. But as you can see now, the purple lava's out because we missed the cogs. Soul Inferno probably was out as well. So as you can see, it's ticking about every like half second for like 3.5, 4.5k, which will basically add up after a while. It's just unnecessary damage to take. So basically, we'll talk about what's going on the other side of the fight with Evil Soma and the group. So basically, there is one ad. I think it's the one of them is like an Arcane ad. It's basically like a boss ad. You have to kill him because he's going to attack the group. Not really attack the group, but he has a lot of group splash damage. So basically, when he comes out, you have to make sure he's dead. At the same time, all the trollers and the group have to be getting those crotones to get those cogs turned, and they need shields for that. So it's going to have to be either the healers or the controller for that, putting a pull on or having the other tank pull them. So the other tank that's on this side is going to have to call them up, because the other group on the other side is not watching and paying attention for the crotones on my side. So, and I can't really turn the cogs because I got Clarion on me. So it's going to have to be a lot of communication between you and the other tank on the other side of the group to call it, yeah, there's a crotone up, or you have to keep watching. So it is a lot of communication going on in this fight. But other than that, there is an ad you have to kill over there, because I think the other thing as well, I could say Faust mechanics is basically the same as Faust in every other raid, or same as Fate. He'll teleport around, he'll do fist slam. He also does, it's a little bit weird where he'll semi kind of de-aggro as well, where when he teleports, he'll kind of pulse beam and attack the group, or attack a player, not the group. So it's basically, I'm not sure if it's just when he teleports, he de-aggros for a second and then attacks a player. This happened kind of a few times throughout the fight, so it's just kind of, you're going to have to watch it from a fight and just make sure the taunt is reapplied, or you're going to have a healer kind of rescue the player there. But that's pretty much the fight on this side, or on that side basically. It just comes down to, you're going to have to continue to turn the cogs the entire time, because you can't have that down. And basically, which makes it a bit slower a fight, because you have ads, you have Faust splitting damage. You can't DPS Faust the entire time, because you're going to have to go on the ads, because you have to turn those cogs, because you can't risk the Soul Inferno being full in the entire map, or the Soul Fire, and then the Soul Inferno is his one shot. So at this point, you can't risk that. He also fires out those like purple projectiles, but they don't show up on my combat log, so I'm not sure if they're actually doing any damage at all, or maybe they have to explode on you, but I didn't see any damage on that side. So it's basically just watching the ads, watching the pulse beam from the one ad. The Clarion Reapers are kind of staff-based attacks. They kind of they don't really do anything. You just have to make sure the DPS or kill them to kind of alleviate some of that stress. But at this point, it just turns into kind of a long surviving fight. I think we lost. Did we lose a player? I think we lost a player. But at the same time, it's some fights, like the beginning is going to be AoE on the ads, and then you have to switch to single target to get Tico and Faust down. So it's basically, you may want to have a DPS switch armories. But at this point, at about the 9-minute mark, they've killed Faust. So basically at this point, you have the tank and maybe the controller. They're going to pull all the crotone ads to turn the cogs. And the whole group, the DPS, the healer, and the other, obviously me as the backup tank, is going to focus on Clarion. This is what you basically don't have to worry about, because there's nothing really for the other people to do now that Faust is dead. Basically just kind of juggle the ads. You're not worrying about it. But they're having to make sure that those cogs are turned on the ads still, because that Soul Inferno doesn't stop for the entire fight. That's going to keep going. So you have to be mindful of that attack and that mechanic. You can't just ignore those cogs as soon as they're up, because basically they only have to be like a couple feet away from Mordru in the center, and then he'll absorb them, and then you can't do anything anyway. So as soon as they spawn, yank them, stun them, turn the cog, and then you're done. So that's just what to be mindful for. And then once I said, Clarion has no attacks that can kill the group unless you're facing it towards them, so just make sure you're facing it away. And then on that, it's just kind of being mindful. So we'll kind of let this fight play out. You can kind of see my half piss poor tanking. but I'm still kind of getting used to fire again because I've been been rage, ice, and atomic tanking. So once again, I'm just trying to get used to fire because I was on test server the entire time. But you can kind of see me doing half okay, but it's still not ideal. I'm still working on the rotation. I also don't have that new tank artifact yet, so that's going to make fire tanking a lot more viable as well with the healing and more of a restoration build. But right now, our group setup is fire tank, earth tank, 2 nature DPS, an electric DPS, nature healer, and electric healer. So basically, we also have the electric DPS running group transducer just for some extra shielding. And then we have the nature DPS using Gorilla and Wolf for depending on whether they need AoE or single target. We have the nature bug healer and then the electric healer. So that's our group setup. We're all might DPS. There are no precision DPS in our league. We're only a might DPS league. So basically this elite raid and the next elite raid, which you'll see, basically all from the advantage or point of view of a might DPS. So once again, if you have any questions or comments, just put them in the comment section below, and I'll try to answer them in terms of if you're struggling with mechanics or just having questions about the fights. But take care, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the Shatter Gotham Elite Raid video. Take care, guys.